Live. Thank you. Welcome to the Conservation Commission meeting of February 5th, 2025. The Wareham Conservation Commission will hold a meeting under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, the Town of Wareham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Division 6, and any other applicable laws. All hearings of the Massachusetts Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and the Town of Wareham Protection Bylaw, Division 6. Although a single decision of the Commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. All matters listed may involve a decision and possible vote. We have a quorum. I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. Please, Joe, start with you.
Joseph Still.
Paula Jean O'Neill.
Scott Sobey.
Autumn Wood. Sandy Slavin.
Michael Mercier.
Kwame Barty.
Josh.
Joshua Faraday, Land Use Coordinator.
Josh, please stand and raise your right hand. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth in all hearings in front of us tonight.
I do.
Thank you. There will be time for discussion. It will be limited to 2 minutes a person, and ask you not to repeat the same statements, and it must pertain to our wetland bylaws. I see a lot of people here, so I'm sure there are a lot of people wanting to comment on our 2 new hearings. We've done a roll call. We've declared a quorum. Please, the first notice of intent.
Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, in the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held in Room 520, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Massachusetts, on Wednesday, February 5th, 2025, at 6 p.m. On the request for notice of intent for Dean Smith, 55 Technology Drive, Suite 102, Lowell, Mass. 02571. Installation and construction of a plus or minus 12.5 MWDC plus or minus /5 MWAC ground-mounted solar photovoltaic array system and associated battery energy storage system. Map 126, Map 115, Lot 3, Lots 1011, 1012, 1013, 1014, 1015, 1016, LC6, 0 Maple Springs Road, Wareham, Massachusetts. I motion to open the hearing.
I have that motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, we are 5600. So, who's here to represent the project, please?
Stacy Minahan with Beals and Thomas.
Hi, Stacy, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth regarding this project at 0 Maple Springs Road.
Yes.
Thank you, Stacy.
Is there a preference for where I put the easel?
Ask the TV people.
There's fine. Okay, great.
It's been a while since you've been before us.
It has. I'm just excited to be here tonight and see you all, so thanks for having us. So I'm Stacy Minahan. I'm a principal and professional wetland scientist with Beals and Thomas here for the 0 Maple Springs Road solar project. Here with me tonight are representatives of the applicant, which is 0 MSR Wareham Solar 1 LLC. If you have questions, they're here to answer them when we get to that point. I thought I would give an overview of the project, but I'm happy to answer questions as I go or afterwards. So I've put the board up here. This is the index sheet to show the overall site. It's a 436-acre property, as you can see, comprised of multiple parcels off of Maple Springs Road, which is down off the plan here. So the facility itself is set back thousands of feet from the road to the west, as shown, with the transmission lines adjacent to it along the west as well. The property contains cranberry bogs that have associated bank with the agricultural ditches that surround the cranberry bogs, and the cranberry bogs themselves are also considered bordering vegetated wetland. There are also 2 isolated vegetated wetlands that constrain the project site. Those resource areas have a 100-foot buffer zone, and then Wareham, as you know, maintains a 50-foot no activity zone from those resource areas. The project itself is a 12.5 megawatt DC ground-mounted solar energy system with appurtenances, including a 4-hour, 5 megawatt AC battery energy storage system, panels, fencing, inverters, transformers, stormwater basins, site access, and interconnection. The limit of work across the 3 interconnected panel areas that you can see there is 41.7 acres. That's the total limit of work, including areas outside of buffer zone. Similarly, the total fenced area, including areas outside buffer zone, is 33.6 acres. Work within the buffer zone is limited to some tree clearing, grading of the northern array. Only that northern array has proposed grading associated with it. Stormwater facilities that are put in place to mitigate the change in vegetative cover type from treed to grass. We're proposing infiltration basins to mitigate that. Small portions of the panels and racking lie within the buffer zone, some of the fencing, portions of the gravel access drive, and underground electrical conduit.
Okay. Josh, can you put that up? It's got to be page 340, God, 400, almost 400 pages.
Of the notice of intent?
Yes.
In the
My
with
system-
the stormwater report?
My system did not like going to print some of these, so I couldn't get them all printed because it said too many pages. So
We're
I'm,
always,
So are you looking for the site
see-
plan specifically?
yeah, do you see what she has up there? It's the overview of the 3 sections, maybe 330 page 330-ish. I know, well, it's not on the screen yet. We're trying to put it up on the screen. Well, then you'll have to move.
Stacy, why don't you go ahead and turn the projector or your easel towards the audience, and the commission can look at the screen?
Screen, okay, and then can someone turn off a bank of lights for us? Thank you. The other one, switch, yeah, thank you. Big project.
is, I'll
So you're only you're going to be looking at 41 acres of the total 486?
but 436 acres is the overall property.
486 is the total, and it is
436 is the total property.
436?
Yep.
Of which 41 will be
41.7
involved.
acres is
Okay.
involved, yep.
And most of that will be tree clearing?
Yes, there will be tree clearing necessary to accommodate the arrays.
Okay. We'll start with the questions. Joe, start with you.
Can we come back to me?
Paula Jean, come back
I
to
was
me.
going to ask the same thing, please.
Scott, come back to me.
Oh, I've got a number of questions.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure I've got this clear.
Sure.
So the work as listed in section 2.3 of this 346-page document describes the work that will be done in the buffer zone. So you said shade clearing, which is cutting trees,
Yes.
and removing stumps, I assume, too.
Stumps within the fenced area will be removed. Will you be removing stumps for just shade clearing or leaving them? Yeah, the stumps outside of the fenced limit itself can remain.
Grading within the area,
For the northern array.
but within the area that are concerning us.
Yes, within the buffer zone, yep.
Installation of panels and racking,
Yes,
fencing,
yes,
construction of gravel roads,
yes,
underground conduit, which means trenching.
yes.
Are those all of the, is that a complete list of the work to be done in the buffer zone?
Yes, to my knowledge.
Okay. Section 2.4.1 says the project, and this is a quote, project proposes few pollution concerns.
Yes,
And that's justification that further study about potential pollution damage is not necessary. Is that correct?
yes, in part, we provided in the water quality section of the notice of intent, well, in the narrative itself, but then also in the appendix with water quality information about potential pollution concerns and studies that have been done to date.
Well, I was a little confused because in the owner's manual, which is a draft owner's manual apparently,
Yep.
in section 5.1 is listed potential sources of non-sediment pollutants.
So the site owner's manual is for the construction period to ensure that equipment, if there's a leak or of, the vehicles entering the site, things like that. So that site owner's manual and construction period pollution is for the construction period, if I'm understanding what you're referring to.
Well, I'm getting there.
Yep.
But there's a huge list of potential pollutants. There's a long table, there's heavy metal stuff, there's petrochemicals, there's a whole bunch of things. So why would it, and I understand this is for during the construction period, but why would then you say that the project proposes few pollution concerns if there are actually very many pollution concerns?
So could you point me to what you're looking at in the notice of intent, just so that I make sure I'm not misspeaking?
Well, so section 2.4.1 of the project proposal.
But the document that you're referencing.
This is the 346-page document that was sent to us.
Right, I'm just hoping that you can point me to which section.
Project narrative, it's under the project narrative.
Yeah.
That's 2.4.1.
Yes.
Right, but then there's a list of chemicals that Mr. Sobey noted, and I'm hoping he can point me to which page
Yeah, in the
that is
owner's
on.
manual, section 5.1, 5.0 really starts the whole pollution thing. 5.1 lists the potential sources of non-sediment pollutants.
All right, so 5.1.
Let me know, Madam Chair, if I've gone over my 2 minutes.
You don't have that limit.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, this is for the construction period, as with any project that involves site grading or installation of facilities, whether it's a residential subdivision, a commercial project, a solar project. You list the potential things, chemicals, constituents that could be in the equipment being used to build the project.
And
And
any
you just-
materials that are brought onto site as well, I assume.
I'm sorry?
And other materials that are brought onto site.
Yes, I'm not sure if there's a specific item of concern, but this lists construction equipment and associated pollution that could occur if there were an issue with the construction of the site.
So you would say then that, correct me if I'm mistaken, but you would say then that once the project is completed, there are, quote, few pollution concerns. Is that what you would say?
Yes, I would also say that during construction, there are a few pollution concerns, but there's a requirement in the stormwater standards that the state puts out to be prepared to address potential issues that could arise during construction. So they want you to identify what the potential pollutants are and be prepared to address them. So it's a forethought approach.
So if there's an oil leak in a truck,
Exactly.
okay.
But there's a lot of those. There's a lot of potentials in that document,
As there would be for any development.
what there are for this one.
Yes, as
Okay.
all development would have similar, many developments, I shouldn't use a superlative, would have similar
Okay.
constituents
I do
listed.
have questions about this section on battery storage, 2.4.3. I know there's a large question within the town itself about battery storage, and I don't really want to go there necessarily. Maybe somebody else wants to, but I am aware that the town is struggling with the whole question of battery storage. I do want to ask one question about it, though, and that is that the batteries are designed to hold a charge for 4 hours, is that correct?
That's my understanding.
But other parts of the document say that this is to balance out the energy that's taken, so that in periods of darkness or periods of cloudy weather, this would make a more stable storage. But if a 4-hour battery is not going to take you through the night even. So I thought that was an inconsistency in the document itself. Can you explain that?
Yes, although I will also lean on the applicant to supplement if needed. But the intent of the battery storage for the projects that I've worked on, and my understanding for this one as well, is not to get you through the night. It's to meter the peaks. And I have not seen a project proposed that I've been involved with anyway that has a battery energy storage system that would get you fully through the night.
Did you want to swear him in, Sam?
Will you be responding to that question?
More.
Okay, may I have your name, please?
Yes, Eric Weinstein.
Okay, Eric, I
Applicant.
need you to swear, right hand, I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth regarding this project at 0 Maple Spring Road. Thank you, Eric.
Yes,
Okay,
that's accurate. 4-hour duration is pretty standard for lithium-ion batteries, and there's, yeah, I'll leave it there. That's right.
I get that, but it also says in the document that this is to take us, and it's right, I didn't quote exactly where it was, but the document also says that's to get us through dark periods and cloudy days and all that stuff. That's part of the same section, but I don't have exactly the page for it.
It's to better align the time of generation of the solar energy with time of use of the greatest demand for energy.
So the battery storage is not intended to even out over longer periods than that, is that right?
It has a 4-hour duration, so it's able to charge during sunlight hours and discharge off those times. But it's responsive to the times of highest demand, so whether that's 8 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night.
And I did find the section that you're referencing on page 2-3, and I can see where maybe it wasn't clear, but the intent of that statement wasn't to imply that the battery would get you fully through those periods. It's just that you have a 4-hour charge that at times during the night, if there's a peak demand or inclement weather, there's a peak demand, you can draw on it, but not that it's intended to get you through that entire
Okay.
period.
Thank you for that explanation. Would you agree with me that the hydrological aspects of this project are really important? The hydrology of the project,
In terms of the stormwater management,
in terms of everything?
so I'm not quite sure how to answer such a broad question, but I can do my best. Yes, I would agree that it is important to manage the stormwater differences going from the existing condition to the proposed condition, which this project does, and we've designed a stormwater system that will direct runoff via overland flow to a series of infiltration basins within each of the array areas.
Yeah. So there's, I don't know how many pages of dealing with hydrological studies. and
Yes,
so it's a lot,
the
like
the
50
stormwater report.
pages,
It's,
something like that.
unfortunately, the requirements to meet the state standards is to provide all that modeling, and the peer review consultant, I'm sure, will be reviewing that in detail.
I was going to ask about the Hantush equation and what its limitations are, but you're probably not,
I'm sorry. I would never heard of it.
I hadn't until today either.
I can certainly follow up and get some information, but I can't speak to that tonight.
Well, it's an important point because of the hydrology, and members of the public have expressed some concerns about how this project would affect Wareham's fresh water supply. So I think as a commission, if that's within our purview, we need to be at least cognizant of what those issues are.
And we'll definitely be asking the water department to voice their issues and concerns on this project. It affects all our water, so
So that, the Hantush
I'm hoping
equation,
someone's here from them.
the Hantush equation, as I see it, is, and I'm not an engineer and I'm not a hydrologist,
Nor am I.
is for modeling essentially water movement through a system, water mounding and all that stuff. And there are certain assumptions associated with that Hantush equation that may or may not be valid for this. And so I was just wondering if someone could address those limitations of the application of the Hantush equation for this model.
Certainly, I can definitely follow up with that. I can say with confidence that the stormwater management system was designed in accordance with the local and state requirements, but I'm happy to look into the Hantush equation specifically.
Okay, thank you. That'll do, thanks.
Thank you. Autumn,
No questions, thank you.
Michael.
Excuse me. Yes, a couple things. Endangered species. On page 11, fairly early in the document, when it's asked that if any portions of the project will be impacted by endangered species, and it's typical language, and it's not marked either yes or no. But further on the document, it's marked that no endangered species are on this property. So have we had any clarification from the state or any notification whether that is the case?
Sure, yeah, that's an error. There is no rare species habitat. We can submit a corrected form. It should be marked no. There's no rare species habitat on the project site.
Now, if the project were to be built, as far as like the fencing of the panels and all that goes, would it be possible that there would be raising of like the fences, because we've asked prior similar projects in the past that those fences, panels, whatever, be raised just a little bit in the event that wildlife be able to go through, be able to like go through and not be stuck in those
critter
areas. That's all.
Josh, what's the standard? Do we say 12 inches high off the ground to allow for critter
That sounds a little high. I want to say it was closer to
8.
6 or 8.
6 or 8?
Yeah.
Well, you want that raccoon to get where he has to go.
That raccoon's gonna climb right over.
That's all.
Is that acceptable, a 6-inch critter gap?
Oh, yeah. Okay,
That's all,
anything
ma'am.
else?
That's all,
Yeah.
thank you.
So, excuse me. Thank you. Kwame?
So Michael beat me to the punch with the fence types and the height. But what type of panels are you initiating for this project? Do you know the type, the brand, and all the other name and all the other good stuff?
Okay, let me see if.
Or is it too early yet to determine?
It is a little bit early, I will say, to specify. Typically, there's a sense of what it is, but I'm not sure. I don't think that was included in the notice of intent. I think it might have been included in the planning board
Okay.
filing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they require that information.
Stacy is correct, though. It is something that will be selected closer to construction, or confirmed closer to construction, I should say.
Okay. And also, my other concern, too, is the battery storage. Where are you depicting to store the batteries? How many? Well, it depends on, how many panels you have,
Josh,
obviously.
can you find that plan that shows the storage?
I couldn't see it on the map. It's so small.
So actually on this map, you can see that there's
That-
battery
that's
storage
one there.
located
Oh, it's
here.
right there? Okay.
I
There's
did
some
another one
here.
there.
I don't think you have any for the third array.
Correct.
Right. It's just it's those 2 openings in the panels there.
Yeah, and that's about all my questions right now at this point. Thank you.
Okay, Joe, you're up. Thank you. Thank you, Josh.
Going back to section 2.4.1, language in here reads, "The project poses few pollution concerns and therefore additional groundwater studies are not warranted." My question here is, where is the nearest source of water reservoir, if any, feeds into all these bogs that are in that area? Is that close to the site, or is that something further off and there are aqueducts that fill these bogs with water?
No, there are, I would have to talk to the landowner to understand how their bog management system works. There are cranberry bogs and water bodies adjacent to the site, though.
Okay, so out of this entire, does the same landowner own all of that area?
There are 2 landowners.
Okay. And they get their water from the same place, or is that
I
something?
don't know.
and
I'd
the
have to
applicant-
ask.
That landowner's not here today that can provide that?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. No further questions?
Paula Jean.
Thank you. I know there's a lot of concern when a solar field project comes before us in this town. We've had quite a few. And some of the concerns people have are about chemical pollution, both during the installation and after it's done and you folks are gone. And the panels have been known to leach various toxins and plastics. What would you say to us about that? How the water would not be impacted in a year or 2? How do you, what guarantees are there? Are there anything in that we could have from you that would prevent that, or that you would come back and have some responsibility to the town of Wareham and people whose water is impacted?
I can take an initial crack at that, and then I'm guessing, Eric, you might want to add on. But in terms of responsibility, were there to be a release of some sort at the site, it could qualify under the Massachusetts contingency plan, which regulates hazardous waste, oil and hazardous materials in the Commonwealth. And if that were to happen, a licensed site professional is assigned to the site. So, in terms of if something were to happen, that responsibility is taken on and overseen by a licensed site professional. I would say, I think the chances of that occurring are, not necessarily likely. And we tried to include a lot of information about that in the application, understanding that that is a concern and not just in Wareham. I do want to ask, though, you mentioned that that panels are known to leach toxins. I'm not aware.
You're not aware of that happening at all? Or the alleged allegations about that?
Well, I'm aware of a lot of allegations.
Allegations, you think they're all unfounded?
I can't speak to that as a wetlands scientist. It's not my expertise, but I have not seen anything indicating that there's a concern of that happening, and I have seen information indicating that there is not a concern of that happening, and that's what we tried to include in the notice of intent.
Where are these solar panels manufactured?
It's going to depend on the ultimate vendor that is selected at construction. There's clearly a lot more incentive for domestic content, as you're probably well aware, but often panels are sourced in East Asian countries as well.
Right. About the fencing for wildlife, customarily it has been 6-8 inches. What about deer? We have, wildlife is under our purview, protecting wildlife, and some are bigger than a medium-sized raccoon. What, has any thought been given to that?
Stacy, excuse me, the fencing will just be around the panels.
Correct.
So there's a lot of mobility around that area. Well, the trees are going to be gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, I was going to say, anecdotally, I have heard of deer jumping fences that high. It's not something I'm aware of personally.
How high are the fences?
Are they 7?
Usually.
I believe they're 7 feet high. But regardless, particularly for this site, so those 3 areas will be fenced individually, fairly tight to the panels. And on this particular property where there's, easy access throughout, I wouldn't anticipate these panels blocking the deer from getting somewhere. There's not going to be anything for them inside the panel areas. I suppose there's grass. If they get themselves in there, they can enjoy that, but they'll be able to get around the site and within the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction still.
What is under the panel? You're not going to leave raw earth, you're seeding, I think you mentioned plantings or seeding.
Correct. Yeah, it'll be a, recall offhand what we seeded this, sorry, not to know it off the top of my head. It's essentially an herbaceous mix, is my recollection.
Okay, excuse me. Okay, please identify yourself, please.
Dean Smith.
Okay, Dean, I asked you to be sworn in. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth regarding this project at 0 Maple Spring Road. Thank you.
It's a native grass mix that's used under the panels. It's a standard mix that's been used on all of these cranberry projects. It's a native mix, and it has a very low weed source in it, so it's compatible with the agricultural use that's nearby.
Thank you.
Okay,
I think that's it, my questions for now.
anybody have anything else? How high are the panels off the ground? At the low end,
Yeah, it's generally 3 feet off the ground,
so 3 feet to 6 feet?
approximately.
All right. Josh, comments, please.
Can you talk a little bit about the project if you were to be approved and the time frame for actual construction? When you see this project starting to be constructed, just the time frame in general?
So the time frame is going to align with interconnection with the electrical grid. I'll have to confirm those dates exactly with you, but there is existing electrical work going on at the local substations that is going to be effectively aligning with when this project would be able to be have its construction completed. Generally, a construction timeline can take, approximately 6 months or so. And we would align that with when that construction work is done at the substation, which I believe is in 2027.
In 2027. Okay. So do you not have an interconnect agreement with Eversource?
We do have an interconnection
You
agreement with Eversource.
Okay. Just for the commission's benefit, this is being peer reviewed. We could not use the town's normal peer review consultant for some conflict of interest, just because he's done work for one of the applicants previously. So we have used, I'll say, our backup consultant, and it's currently in front of them. They're working on their peer review now.
Is that peer review for planning?
We have one for planning and one for conservation.
So it'll be two separate reports.
Yeah, some of the information will overlap, and that's understandable. But, you know, obviously, the conservation peer review will be looking at a lot of your concerns, including the Wetland Protection Act and your bylaw. And the planning board will look at much more, I'll say. But
Okay.
as of today, we don't have the peer review back from them. It's likely that you'll probably get it before your February 19th hearing. And then there's usually generally some time for the applicant to respond to that. So I think a continuance tonight is obviously being recommended.
What's the March date? March 5th? Was that?
No, I think it's the 4th. I may be wrong on
Chair.
that.
March 5th.
Chair Slavin,
It's the fourth.
if I may, we would prefer to continue to February 19th, and then if we must
No, I
continue
know,
it
but
again-
I-
Okay, sorry.
4th?
No, your first meeting in March is the 5th.
I was wrong.
Thank you. Yes, that's just
Yeah.
something else coming down the line since I was asking the questions. Now, I will ask for public comments on this. I will ask that you are limited to no more than 2 minutes. You stay on topic for conservation. And I would like to know, is there anybody here from the Wareham Water District? Because I would love to have their comments regarding this project so close to their water sources. I see nobody. I'm disappointed. Can you please see if you can send out an invitation to them? Because I would love to have their professional comments on this water source and impact on our wells.
Yep, I'll reach out to them tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. All right. First up, who wants to comment? Lady in the red, please come up and identify yourself. And I'm sorry, Eric and Dean, I'm going to ask you if you can give up your seat for our commenters. I will not ask you to be sworn in since you're going to be commenting personal comments on this. Identify yourself, though, for the record. Come seat at this chair and,
Thank you. My name is Faith Berry.
okay, Faith, you have presented us with a couple documents that are online to be reviewed.
Thank
Okay.
you. I appreciate that, and I appreciate your good questions tonight.
Okay,
And I want to say, I'm not against solar panels and solar farms. However, I believe that this is the wrong location for this project, mainly because of its proximity to one of 2 main water supplies for the city, which is right at the end of Maple Springs Road. And the water department, I pulled up a document from their webpage, and it says that the district remains proactive in the current and future wellhead protection with the goal of permanently protecting as much of the zone as possible. And there's quite a bit more information in that document that I have shared with you. I'd also like to share that there are 80% of solar panels that are constructed do have PFAS in them, both in the tape, in the batteries, and in the panels themselves. And I do have some research papers that point that out. It's not just my point of view.
and you included them in your document? Yes.
Yes, and PFAS, and I have a personal experience because I was a firefighter, and I used calf's foam, and I did get cancer from the foam. So personally, I have a very big concern about PFAS leaking into our aquifer from these solar panels, and they are a forever chemical, causing damage not just to the people now, but for future generations. So to me, this is a big concern. One of the quotes from the papers, this is not my opinion, it says PFAS waste from solar panels. This is something that people in the sector don't like to talk about. Solar panels may very well save the planet, but the way they're being produced and disposed of right now is seriously hurting the environment. Thousands of tons of PFAS waste are put in landfills each year, and the sector has no idea how to deal with it. The vast majority of solar panels currently use toxic and highly persistent PFAS in the outer layer to ensure durability. In 2022, the market share for PFA materials in these outer layers was close to 80%. So it's a high amount, and when we don't know what kind of panels are being purchased, we don't know if they have these chemicals in them or not.
You can finish up.
My other concern is when they said there were no endangered and threatened species, I looked on the rare species viewer on mass.gov, and it talks about at least 2 threatened and endangered species, mainly different types of turtles, and I've seen them myself in this area.
Okay.
There's a
Thank you.
pond, 2 ponds there with that. Thank you, and I appreciate you giving me 2 minutes.
Okay, Stacy, can you check on endangered species on the state website as to whether or not they're in this location?
I can, although if I may clarify through the chair, so the site is not mapped for rare species. What I understand is being indicated is that she has seen those 2 rare turtles.
Yes,
So
thank you.
I
It's
can't,
on the map, or
there's,
So, no,
okay. I can check the habitat to make sure, but I
Thank
know
you.
that it's not in habitat.
Thank you.
Yep.
thank you.
Thank you. Next, please. Nobody else? Anybody online?
I do have one online.
Please let them in and then identify themselves.
Okay, thank you very much for taking my comments. My name is Catherine Harrelson, and I'm with Community Land and Water Coalition, a Plymouth-based nonprofit organization. I would just like to echo the sentiments of the previous speaker on behalf of this project. I myself am not opposed to solar panels either, but I believe that some of the places that they're being installed are inappropriate, including for this project. I would make these following comments under the Wetlands Protection Act and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw. I would just like to ask the Conservation Commission to give careful consideration to this project, considering that it involves 42 acres of deforestation, and the nearest panels are located approximately 550 feet from the Zone 2 wellhead protection area for public water supply wells, including those of the town. I believe this is a sensitive environmental area. It looks like there might be a brook or a stream running through the site that drains into Mill Pond. So I believe that the hydrology on this site may be complicated and it should be studied. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? Not, I'll take a motion to continue until 2:19.
I motion to continue until 2:19.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Anything else? We're continued until 2:19. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Have a good night.
Take a vote.
Oh, yes. Who would like to continue? I need a vote. Who's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 600, we are continued. Thank you very much, Scott.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
I was told at one site visit, this is not to do with you, Yeah, so one person I spoke with at a site visit said that he wanted to comment online, but didn't realize that he had to click on the hand-raising button. So maybe when we start these meetings, or we could make an announcement, that's the way to get in, is to hit the hand-raising button on their Zoom.
okay. All right. So we'll give instructions on how to identify that you would like to speak. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Next hearing, please.
On the request for notice of intent for John L. Churchill Jr., 2854 Cranberry Highway, East Wareham, Massachusetts. Construction of roadway and associated stormwater management systems, map 63, lot 1013, and others. Zero County Road, Wareham, Massachusetts. I motion to open the hearing.
I have a motion. Right,
Second.
now you have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. The hearing is open. And who's here to identify, who's here to speak to this project?
Good evening, Brad Bertolo, JC Engineering.
Peter Teitelbaum, I'm the project attorney.
Okay, Peter, Brad, please stand and raise your right hand. I swear to...
I'm pre-sworn.
No. I don't know. Mr. Bowen asked me to swear in everybody. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth regarding this Zero County Road. Thank you, Peter.
Just as an attorney, I'm pre-sworn
I
anyway.
know, but,
I'll clarify that with Rich, because you can't make attorneys take oaths.
oh, but
You already
you...
did.
But now that you've identified yourself as the attorney,
Yeah, now you
Yes.
can refer back to my oath. I think it was on December 17th, 1998,
thank you.
in front of the Supreme Judicial Court, so.
Brad, you want to take the lead on this one?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Again, Brad Bertolo with JC Engineering, engineer of record for the project. This is a project this board or commission should be familiar with. It currently has permits already from this commission, but administratively, some of those conditions that were stated in the order conditions and the plan that was referenced was a prior version. This commission voted for approval back in March of 2024, but the final approval from the planning board didn't occur until end of June. So the plan that was referenced in the order of conditions referenced a prior version of the plan. Very minor change to it. It was, the revision date was the same date as the hearing, so I'm pretty sure we presented that plan. There was very minor changes. At that time, it was already peer-reviewed, and that plan was signed off by this commission's peer review consultant. So the plan was reviewed, it just was referenced wrong. And the order conditions also referenced a couple of resource areas that are non-existent. They were included in the original version, but over the 7 or 8 months of permitting through this commission, the resource areas were evaluated by outside consultants, made some changes, but those changes weren't documented in the order. We're just afraid that with this project being a multi-year project for roadway and final pavement, it's going to be years down the road, and members could change. And I just want to make sure that the commission at that time is reviewing the correct set of plans and the correct conditions for when we request that certificate of compliance. Again, this is just for the roadway and drainage systems. Every other site or on the property that is potentially working within your jurisdiction for individual houses, those are filed under separate orders, notice of intent. So this is just for the roadway, which will be many years down the road until its, final sign-off is done.
So what we approved is not what planning approved? Is that a good way, is that a different way?
That's correct.
Yeah.
The plan that you
Thing
approved
changed,
was
yeah.
dated February 9th. There was still some feedback that came in from the peer reviewing engineer, who, by the way, also consulted to the planning board, so they knew exactly the same information that you got when we were before you. And that resulted in a March 20th plan that was approved by the planning board. And I think there was a contemporaneous crossing of those two. I think we got that in the door the same day that you were meeting, and so there was a cross up there, because we would have asked, an approval for the March 20th plan. Now, the other reason I want this as the attorney who's going to be drafting deeds and homeowners association agreements and everything else is I want to make it easy on myself and also the future buyers, so that they all can refer to the same plan as coming with approvals from both planning on one end and conservation on the other. Just for consistency's sake, 30 years down the road, I don't want people cursing my name. They might anyway, but hopefully not for this.
Okay, what changes are we looking at? I mean,
The only change was in relevance to groundwater separation on one of the drainage basins. I had to adjust it by, I believe, 4 inches vertically. Just so, to take into account the mounding that's there and maintain proper separation, there was
So you're coming back to us for a brand-new notice of intent on the plan that was done by planning on 3/20?
That was.
March 20?
Yeah, that's the plan that was approved by planning, but they didn't approve it till June, when we
But
filed.
it's, okay, but it's not what we approved. Josh, am I getting this right?
Yeah, and I would also add that their current plan set also identifies the trail that you guys permitted that perimeters the pond as well. That was after the fact plan set that was given. Now it will be in the original plan set of the project.
Okay, because we approved the change without having that final alteration.
Yeah, it was, we want to see the plan set and how you're going to manage it. Just supply it to the department after you had already given your approval,
Okay,
which was appropriate at the time.
at the time.
Now
But
now it's included in the
we're
official
going to-
plan set.
This is it? No more changes unless there's another,
Well-
but this is what planning has approved, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Questions? I'll start with Joe.
No questions for me.
Paula Jean.
Just to clarify, it's the trail that goes around the 30-acre pond, is that?
That was, yes, as Josh had mentioned, this board allowed future maintenance of that trail, basically just trimming branches. The path is pretty prominent out there and easy to walk, but
Seen it.
over time, some of that path is within, most of it's within 100 feet of a resource area, so to avoid having to come back every time they want to cut some branches, we actually have the plan now included with this permit or application, so it shows exactly all the trails.
Thank you.
And I believe there's limiting language in there to the width that can be cleared, so it's not like somebody can go and put in a, superhighway around the pond, so.
And no motorized vehicles, it was just
Yeah, it's the same,
Yeah.
passive use.
yes.
Okay. Scott?
Just one question for Brad. Did you use the Hantush equation? I'm just kidding. No questions.
I don't even know what that is.
Autumn?
No questions, thank you.
Michael?
None here, thank you.
Kwame?
I'm so upset that Mr. John Churchill's not here. I told that you had to move something almost 4 feet. That's just,
4 inches.
I'm sorry, 4 inches.
He's probably peer reviewing for some other conservation commission, telling them that they need to move something 4 inches.
No questions.
Josh, any comments?
So I reviewed the plan set that they've provided versus the prior plan set that was given. I can speak to the fact that it is, I'll say, almost identical, the revision being that change in 4 inches and the addition of the perimeter path around the pond.
All right, is there anybody in the audience who'd like to comment on this project? Anybody online? Anybody online? I do have one online. Okay, I'm going to take the one online first. Please let them in and...
Hi, my name is Catherine Harrelson, and I am with Community Land and Water Coalition, a Plymouth-based nonprofit organization. And I'd just like to make the Conservation Commission aware that this project is currently undergoing MEPA review. And you may want to await the final results of the MEPA review before voting on it, or just make the Conservation Commission aware that it's undergoing review. Thank you.
Thank you. Person online who'd like to come up and, on the audience. Please come up and identify yourself when you get in front of the microphone.
Doreen Adams, 4 Wishbone Way, and I have nothing prepared. My concern is the water table. And when you mention 4 inches, are you planning to increase it 4 inches higher or 4 inches lower?
Yeah, it's all right.
So
Brad, can you answer her
Yes,
question?
so we're not adjusting groundwater. We elevated the work so it provides a greater separation from groundwater.
So,
You have a follow-up question? Yes.
well, my concern is the water table between the new street and Wishbone Way. So my concern is the water table. My concern is also the traffic coming in and out of,
Well, we can't talk about traffic, it's not conservation, but we'll talk about your water table.
okay.
So that's my concern is how it's going to affect Wishbone Way.
Yes, so the...
It doesn't need to be flooded any more than it already is.
But the street itself is separate from Wishbone Way. There is proposed drainage in the new street going in, where any runoff from the street and sidewalks are captured and conveyed southerly away from Wishbone Way. So the final discharge point in that location is about, I think, 1,000 feet southerly of that. So we're not proposing any subsurface infiltration up near Wishbone Way, where we're directing water to infiltrate in that location. We're pushing it southerly away.
Can you tell me how many feet there are between the new roadway and Wishbone Way?
I believe the road itself is like 10 or 12 feet.
10 to 12 feet?
Yep.
Okay. To me, that's pretty close, but that's my only concern.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Josh? Should we be concerned about that review?
The review is being done. It's not a requirement of the notice of intent application in front of you, but it is a requirement of the current application that they have approved. And it's only a requirement of that because it received a state permit under the superseding order of conditions.
All right, so there's nothing that we would be concerned about if we did not vote on this project tonight?
So I would say that there are two avenues for what Brad is trying to accomplish tonight. There is amending an order through us and the state, and there is filing a new application. They've chose this over the amendments.
So this is a new application? Yes.
Technically, yes, but very minor changes to the one that you've already seen. But you're correct. It received a new DEP file number, so.
Okay. Yes, Paula
I
G.
have one question. When the online caller was speaking, I didn't catch what she said. What kind of review? What is this review that's pending?
So it's under MEPA?
MEPA?
Yeah, MEPA.
Okay, I'll do some homework. Thank you. What does that stand for?
Massachusetts Environmental,
Protection Agency.
yeah. And what they do is projects of a certain size, and also potentially depending on their location, are subject to state review. So that's what's going on here.
All right.
And we're in that process now, we're in that sort of the pipeline, so that they will get to review the plans. They can make changes to things as well. So it's a sort of a super oversight for larger projects, I guess you could call it.
So if they made changes, you would have to be coming back to us with an amended notice of intent?
Yeah,
Or something?
Yeah, we would be seeking.
could.
And do we know when that review is expected to come in?
Oh, they take months,
Yeah.
literally 6, 8 months.
I'm not part of that process. I don't know.
I'm just trying to get some edification, whether we're jumping the gun and we should wait, or if we're going to consider it insignificant.
Well, I will say this, when we were before you last year, the same speaker brought up the same thing and tried to say that you should hold the project up for that, but there's nothing in the regulations that says you have to wait. So I want to make that clear. You can vote and issue your order of conditions tonight, and if anybody has a problem with it, they can jump in with the MEPA process. That's open to the public as well, so. That's sort of the protection you have going forward, and the fact that if they do make changes, we have to come back to you anyway.
All right. No other comments? Take a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close the hearing?
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstain. We're 600 to close the hearing. Josh, any recommendation for standard order of conditions?
I think
Whatever we did before?
Yeah, well, actually, yeah, that would be the best motion moving forward.
So the same order of conditions that we applied on the first notice of intent would be applied here?
Correct. And just for without having it in front of me, but some of your conditions entailed the replication area. There was some standard conditions for the replication area because they were altering some areas of jurisdiction that were local to our bylaw but not under the state jurisdiction. There was a special condition about how much wetland they could actually alter. The state gives a threshold of 5,000 square feet for a project. Your condition limited the entirety of the subdivision to that 5,000.
Okay. So, someone like to take a motion, we approve the project with a standard order of conditions plus the ones that were applied in the first notice of intent.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 600. Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you. We have continued hearings. 9 15th Street, I said was continue until 5/7. The next one is 25 Oak Street. Is there anybody here for that project?
Actually, was that continued?
I thought 61 wanted to be continued. Was 25 continued?
That's correct. I think I sent you guys an email.
I know, but I got confused between 25 and
Maybe both of them
61.
will then both continued, but I thought 25 was continued.
Yeah.
Summers was continued
Yeah, they would like to be continued to March 5th.
to March
5th.
5th. That was the March 5th one I was looking for. Okay, so Summers would like to be continued until March 5th.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained? We are continued. Okay. Next one is 61 Oak Street, Lowell. Anybody here for that project?
So that was, at your last hearing, you had continued it because they had failed to notify their abutters. I got a phone call from not the applicant, but the contractor doing the work. He said that the applicant still has not notified the abutters. So I guess it's under your discretion on when you want to continue it to.
Let's give them until February 19th.
Motion to continue to February 19th.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained? Sorry?
Just raised their hand.
Okay.
Oh.
I didn't finish my vote.
Yeah, that's the contractor. You can let him in. If you're okay with it.
Yeah.
You want to hear him?
Is he going to say anything different than what you've already shared?
I don't think so, but
You can let him in.
They're in, they should have to unmute.
Hey, good evening.
Please identify yourself.
Ryan Vanderstay with Advanced Earthworks.
Brian, do me a favor, slowly spell your last name for our note taker.
E as in Victor, Anderstaay.
I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand, and I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth regarding the project at 61 Oak Street.
I do.
Thank you. And your comments, please.
So we have sent out the certified mail for all the abutters. I do have the receipts of that. We sent that out on January 13th to all the abutters for the neighbors.
I had in my notes from last meeting that it hadn't been done yet.
Yeah, we had, I got a receipt from the post office, and it's on January 13th that we had sent everything out to the abutters.
Have you sent those proof, have you sent that proof to our department yet?
Do we have the green cards?
I believe Jake was, had sent everything in, all the receipts and everything to you guys.
I see that it was uploaded to OpenGov on February 3rd.
Okay, thank you. Then I misspoke. That isn't the project I'm thinking of, or this isn't the project I'm thinking of. So you can take a motion to reopen.
Yes.
hear it?
I never really closed it, but I'll take a motion to reopen the hearing.
Motion to reopen the hearing then?
In a second, all in favor, aye. Opposed, abstained.
Sorry about
Okay.
that.
Okay, comments then. What would you talk to us about the project, please?
So right now there is a existing concrete wall, it's a seawall, and we are just going to increase the height of it by about a foot. We're gonna put some wattles along the work scope area so nothing can get into the water and such. Drilling some rebar and just add, like I said, about a foot of concrete.
All right, questions? Joe?
None for me.
Paula Jean?
None, thank you.
Scott?
No questions.
Autumn?
No questions, thank you.
Michael?
Yes, it's, maybe I missed this project in the past, I'm not sure, because I missed the last meeting. The property seems a little bit tight down there. How you plan on, like, or better yet, where we gonna be storing the equipment? How you plan on getting the equipment down to build the wall and so on? Just out of curiosity.
So to get any type of equipment, we'd probably have to ask probably a neighbor because it is a tight space down there. Even putting the concrete into wheelbarrows just to get it down there.
All right. And I imagine it'll be about the same heights as those stones that are down there now. Those stones, those are stones that are about maybe a third of the wall. Those would be replaced, I imagine, or moved.
You mean the cinder blocks?
The cinder blocks,
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're just gonna try to match the height of it. Try to get them up to that height of those cinder blocks.
All right, thank you. That's all I had.
Kwame?
No, my question was the height, but Michael already answered that, so I'm good, thank you.
My concern is that you're going to put in some type of erosion control, but that high water comes up to the seawall, right?
I don't know if it goes, if like, especially during like high tide, if it hits the seawall on a constant basis. But we can always try to work it where we're gonna be there, say during a low tide.
Low tide. So you may have to take your erosion control up out of the sand at high, as the tide comes up, and put it back in place when the tide recedes.
Yeah, if the tide comes up too high to that wall.
Okay. Thank you. Josh, any comments? Oh, sorry. Scott?
Yeah, I just noticed on the plans that you have pins for removable stairs. Are the stairs part of this? Because there are no stairs there now. So are stairs part of this project or no?
I'm not 100% sure if,
Well, on the plans, it does, can you see on your plans, it says pins for wooden removable stairs?
yeah, so they must probably want to put some stairs in. So yes, those are probably part of this project now, just to remove the stairs probably during the fall and winter.
Well, it certainly makes sense, but I would think that putting stairs down under the beach would fall under our purview as well. And there wasn't anything mentioned previously.
Would they just be placed on the sand, or would they be a permanent base installed to accept the stairs?
No, it'd just be just onto the sand.
I do see that there was a staircase there in September.
But something that was removed?
Yeah, because I've
So
been
they
up
got
to
a
the site
pin
and
to
I
it,
haven't seen
a
it.
pins to anchor the stairs, and then they pull the stairs up?
Yeah, they're leaning against the house right now, I think.
Because this is not a permanent set of stairs, just something,
But Scott's right, that is in your jurisdiction. It could be considered a minor alteration or temporary alteration.
So what do you recommend? It's hard to believe that we would prevent someone from getting to their beach by not allowing them the stairs. But how do we make them change the plan to indicate that there are temporary stairs seasonally placed?
Yeah, you could do that. You could have them amend the RDA application to include that.
I think so. Can you speak to Jacob and have them reapply for an updated RDA to show the stairs as a temporary placement?
Yeah, absolutely.
I
Okay.
have a question about that. Would the abutters need to be re-notified?
We're just continuing the hearing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I guess we go, anybody else commenting on this project? If not, we'll go back to a continuation until 2/19.
So moved.
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstaining, 600. So we'll want for a plan change for temporary stairs. Okey dokey, thank you.
Thank you.
Continued. The next one is for 11 Knowles Ave. Anybody here for that project?
Yes, my name is Rebecca Trabue.
Okay, Rebecca. And were you here at the last meeting?
I was not. This is my first meeting.
Then I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand and swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth regarding the project 11 Knowles Ave.
I do.
Thank you very much, and comment, please, other than you've already started the work.
Just trying to rebuild my childhood home. It's to me, a simple project. It's just a 2-story house, pretty much identical to what was there prior, other than the basement.
What do you mean by you put it in the basement?
No, there was a basement, I had to fill it in.
Okay,
Yes.
so, but the footprint for the size of the house is the same that existed?
Very similar, yes, I added a little bit more square foot.
Okay. I guess the work started without approval.
Yes.
All right. Anybody? I don't know where the wetlands, is it just because it's,
It's just in land subject to coastal storm flowage.
okay, so we don't have to raise it or anything like that, it's just because it's subject to coastal flooding, that's why they're here.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have to worry about that anyway. That's a building code.
Okay,
That would be handled under the building code as
all
well.
right. Any questions? I'll start, Joe.
No questions for me.
Autumn.
No questions, thank
See,
you.
I got you. Sorry. Scott,
No questions. thank you.
Paula Jean,
No questions, thank you.
Michael.
Obviously, the work's already started. It doesn't take a blind person to see it. Maybe this question also goes over to Scott, not Scott, Josh as well. I was looking at some of the maps and the graphs rather, and there's no like, they didn't have the 50-foot no activity zones or anything of that on there. I was just curious where they were. But then at the same time, you said they're in a floodplain or flood zone or?
Yeah, technically they're located within a resource area, which is
Okay.
land subject to coastal storm flowage, so you wouldn't see those no activity zones identified on there. The land subject to coastal storm flowage under the Wetlands Protection Act actually doesn't have any performance standards as of yet. We're still waiting for those. So historically, what you guys have done is you've approved these projects.
Correct, well, correct, because it's my understanding, though, too, that a house like this, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I heard that this house was previously destroyed, and you're looking to just rebuild it, which is certainly understandable. And I was just looking at the graph, and I just couldn't see anything on there, like where, like, the no activity zones or anything like that, which is why I was just curious where that was, that's all. And obviously, as Cindy already mentioned, the fact that you can't begin construction without coming to without getting the proper permitting as well, so that's all. So,
Kwame?
Oh, no questions, thank you.
Josh, any comments?
I was just looking for that first floor elevation for you guys, but I don't think it is really important to your approval. The recommendation would be a -3, -6. -3 being if you wanted to impose anything.
All right, and anybody in the audience or online to comment on this? I do believe there will be a $200 fine for starting the work without approval. Anything else?
A motion to close the hearing?
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 600 to close the hearing.
A motion to approve with a -3 and a -6?
Second.
With a 200.
I thought we did that separate.
No, it's not got to be part of the motion.
I motion to approve with a -3 and a -6 and a $200 fine for starting the work prior to approval.
Second.
That's the motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, 600. I was going to say, before you do any work, see Josh, but get the paperwork
I do
from
have a
him.
question, though. Who do I pay that fine to?
You can go to the Conservation Office on the Planning Board, second floor of the Town Hall,
You got it.
made payable to the town of Wareham.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, we got another one done. I'm so pleased. Okay. Next continued hearing would be 95 Charge Pond Road for the bridge on the river, Faring Hill, and I believe they requested a continuance
That's correct.
until
We-
March 5th.
They said March 5th. After speaking to Dave Menard, it sounds like there is a desire to hopefully speed this up. Maybe not within your concerns, but
We'll do February 19th.
yeah, give them February 19th. The only concern was that there is now a weight limit placed on the bridge of 6 tons, and it actually forced our municipal maintenance department to go out and buy a new sander because everything that they were equipped with was too heavy.
Either that or the road doesn't get sanded.
Yeah.
They go all the way around.
Yeah, living on Faring Hill Road, I'd prefer
Yes,
that it's
that's-
sanded.
Well, it would stop just past you. It won't go over the bridge.
I don't need
So-
everyone knowing where I live.
Well, no, I think we've already said that you live down on
Yes,
Faring Hill.
yes.
Okay, so I need a motion to continue until 2/19.
So moved?
second.
Motion and seconded, all in favor? Aye, opposed, abstained, we're 600. The next hearing is 28 Nelson Street. We got a peer review for that. I think everybody got a,
And they requested a continuance.
They did. Their attorney representing the project is not available tonight.
yep. Okay, someplace in here, I've got McKinnon. There it is. Okay. Did she say when?
The 19th.
2/19. We're going to have a motion to continue until 2/19.
So moved?
I have that motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstains. We're continued until 2/19. The next one is 13 Knapscott Way. Okay, 13. Which is wait a minute, I'm finding it. Okay. Who's here for that project?
Brian Grady, GAF Engineering, here for the applicant.
Brian, I'm going to ask you to stand. I don't think you weren't here at the last hearing. Swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth regarding the project of 13 Knapscott Way.
I do.
Thank you. Talk to us about it.
Well, if I could just ask the question first, I don't know if you want to open up the other projects, they're all kind of related.
All the projects are tied together. I think it would be appropriate to open them all right now.
All right, therefore, we're going to open 13 Knapscott, 15 Knapscott, 17 Knapscott, and 19 Knapscott Way as all of one hearing. And Brian's got them all.
Correct.
So I need,
Motion to open.
we already opened it, it's a continuation, we're continuing. So you're swearing to tell the truth regarding the 4 sites?
Correct.
Thank you. Since I only get, never mind. Okay, talk to us about the 4 of them.
Okay, so this was continued. We received some correspondence when DEP issued the file number. They had a question or a comment that the site is mapped as a coastal dune in Mass GIS, so we contacted Environmental Consulting and Restoration, and they had their coastal geologist and a wetland scientist go out there and prepare a report, which you should have received, in their determination that the site is not a coastal dune, any of the properties. So when I say the site, I'll refer to all 4 properties unless something specific needs to be mentioned regarding that. So what we're looking to do here, these 4 homeowners, and they're all present this evening. If there's any questions I can't answer, the owner applicants hopefully will be able to respond. So they've all banded together to stabilize the coastal bank, what we're calling a coastal bank, on their 4 properties. 13 has some stone and some riprap protection for their bank, and the other properties do not. All these homes were constructed mid-50s or so, thereabouts. So they're looking, well, they've all observed, and we've all heard the news reports of coastal storms are getting worse and the sea levels are rising, and they've witnessed some of these intense storms, and they're looking to perform this stabilization. The property at 17 Knapska back in 2011 filed a notice of intent to stabilize their portion, acting independently, stabilize their portion from some erosion. What was eventually approved was some core logs and some sand placement and some beach grass plantings, which disappeared very quickly in a matter of months.
One storm and it went away.
One storm and it went away. So they're looking for a slightly more permanent solution this time around, and as I said, the 4 property owners have banded together. And what we have here is a stone revetment. I've met Josh and Christine on site a month or so ago, and we viewed the site, had some discussions. I believe when I left that meeting, Josh can correct me if I'm wrong, I suggested to him that I was not going to call this a coastal bank because I don't know how many of you have been there. It's fairly insignificant. It's a couple of feet high, and I think Josh concurred with that. But when I got into preparing the plans, I did call it a coastal bank, just to be the most conservative, to get input from DEP and from the commission and et cetera. So, but that wasn't any of the comments addressed in the DEP letter. Their only comment was, address the coastal dune issue. So initially, that was my thought. It wasn't a coastal bank. I believe Josh concurred with that, but to be conservative, we did eventually call it that on the plans. So we're looking to do a very small stone revetment wall, as you see on the plans, and if you've been to the site, it's no higher than probably this table is what we're looking at, and then behind that is pretty flat. So it's going to be a stone, maybe a stone and a half high, and we're calling for it, to meet design guidelines for stone revetments as far as it's not going to be a vertical wall, it's going to be a sloped wall at about 2.5, 3 to 1. And and it's going to be rough-faced. 30 years or so ago, they used to take a lot of time and make those faces very smooth and make sure and match the rocks and have very smooth faces, which they discovered redirected wave energy. So now they call for the faces to be rough and pointed and not smooth. So we've got the slope and the rough face so that we don't redirect any of the wave energy. We are occupying over the 4 properties approximately 650 square feet of coastal beach. And if you've been to the site, I think you all have the plans up. There's the remains of a concrete wall about halfway from the bank and the water. I don't know exactly when that was put in, 50, 60 years ago, something like that. So that might be historically where the properties extended out to. And if approved, that concrete wall will be removed as part of the project.
That's on 19, right?
It probably extends across all the properties. It depends what time of year you're there, whether it's buried under sand or not, because the sand does move with the seasons. So there'll be no activity below mean high water. There'll be no activity below high water. By that I mean new moon, full moon tides. It's only storm events that reach this. We would be asking to work from the beach for portions of the project. As you get down to the northern end, 17 and 19, there's still some substantial vegetation remaining that we're trying to protect, some large trees and the tree roots, and those do provide some stabilization. So if need be, the contractor would work from the beach. We are calling for not erosion control, but an orange snow fence, construction fence, that will allow any tide waters to pass through. And mainly that's kind of to keep pedestrians out of the area because people do walk along this beach. So it's more safety related than an erosion control. We don't really anticipate any erosion. We had that project at the end of Granston Way where they repaired the base of that wall last year, if you recall, and small equipment did a work from the beach on that. And it gets all washed away in a tide or two, any of the tracks that are left behind or any of the ruts like that. So we believe it's a minimal impact. It's, as I said, 2 feet high, 3 feet high, 13 NOPSCA, that's probably the most significant. That's the one with the existing stone and riprap. That's maybe 6 feet high in height, and that'll be replaced in place. So that's a brief summary of the project. I believe we have addressed the DEP comments relative to the coastal dune. There's no other comments from them that I'm aware of. And if I could respond to any questions that the commission may have.
Okay. Joe?
On 13 NUPSCO, you mentioned that was the one with the higher current riprap?
Correct.
Okay, and now are all those going to be the same height?
No, all the heights will match basically what's there. We're not going to raise the level of the land behind. So the wall will taper. We do call out wall heights on the plan, and they're going to match existing grade that's there. We're not going to be raising the existing grade behind the walls.
Okay, no further questions.
Paula Jean?
I'm just wondering, to do the work from the beach side, the seaward side, how would you get, are you going to use equipment, bring equipment in there on the beach, or is it going to be all manually?
No, there'll be equipment needed to put the large stones in place. The 13 and 15, the access will be, the construction access will be primarily across 15 NOPSCA. And 15 and 17 should primarily be able to work from the upland side to accomplish the work. It's kind of the end of 17 and 19 where we get those large trees we're trying to protect, that they would be working from the beach.
So you will be protecting those trees and not impacting any of the trees.
That's our intent, yes. Yep.
Okay. And when were you thinking of doing this work? As soon as it's approved, or next spring, or?
Do you have a contractor line up, and would you have?
He didn't want to see it until this was approved.
Well, they're all busy, so they're looking for approvals and to notch them into their schedules, but as soon as he would be available, I imagine.
And you think it would be, the work would be done in a week, a couple of weeks, 2 weeks?
Well,
Do you have a-
he would have to work around weather
Yeah, of course.
and tides, so it could take 3 to 4 weeks, weather depending.
Okay, so maybe a month max.
Yes.
Or something. Okay, and I was wondering about this orange snow fence you mentioned to keep people out of the area. I'm looking at the pictures of the beach, and I've been there. Where would the snow fence go? Would it go parallel with the water line or perpendicular to it? I'm not sure what you're saying. I'm thinking how in Massachusetts, people have a right to walk on the beach
Right.
in the intertidal below the mean high tide, and so that won't be blocked off. There would still be access. If someone's walking the shore, they should still be able to walk along there if it were a month-long period of time. Now, I don't remember when I was there, I wasn't looking to see where it connected to, if one were to hike a mile, a half mile this way or that way. But
Well, it's kind of hard.
blocking access, legal access to
If
the
you go
shoreline.
south of there, that figure,
That looks
the
like it
aerial,
goes pretty far.
well, the aerial photograph that you should have in your, part of your submittal, if you go south of there, that's where you get a lot of stone revetments already. There's groins, and it might be difficult to walk south of there. So I don't think there's an awful lot of people that walk that. It's mostly the neighborhoods. But
Yeah.
yeah, we wouldn't certainly want to interfere with their right. We just want to keep a safe work site. So the contractor would keep it as close to what he needs.
So someone could still get by walking
Correct.
along the water line? That's
Correct.
really what I'm wondering.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
So I'm very sympathetic to the idea of protecting these properties from the storms, waves, and so on. But I am cognizant of the limitations that are placed by state law and by the bylaws on destruction of coastal banks. I think that you've done a nice, careful job of looking at ways to do this with minimizing the damage. The other thing I see is that with those revetments you're speaking about at the further south in number 5 or 3, Nobska, they have quite a lot of stone there. And I wonder if the placement of those revetments has increased the storm damage by these edge effects that we all know about to these 4 properties that you're representing. Do you have an opinion about that?
Well, I believe that photograph that I provided you, and in my narrative, I think there's over 3,000 feet of Cremisa Point, east and west, that is stabilized either with stone revetments, and I believe there's upwards of 18 groins. And they've been there looking at some historical photographs, they've been there 50, 70 years or more. So I don't believe recent construction has occurred, and that's exacerbating any of the problems that they're seeing. I think that's just the current climate we're in with sea level rise and the intensity of storms occurring, things of that nature, warming waters.
Right, yeah, 1 foot of sea rise since 1900, and it's going faster now, I understand that. But I'm concerned about adding more riprap stonework that would then pass the problem on to neighbors further to the north, or to those wooded areas that are further to the north. And I think you've considered some of that by putting the stones in that have a lot of texture rather than a smooth wall. I think that's one mitigation factor. But I am concerned about the destruction of the coastal bank by this project. And you said that they tried vegetating before and that just washed out, is that right?
Yeah, the first storm, I believe, came along and took it out.
So let me ask this question as a hypothetical then. Is it possible to erect some temporary protection, revegetate, and then allow some time for the revegetation to take hold and become much more sturdy than just a planting and then leaving it open to the storm.
Well, that's always an option, but if I could just back up, addressing your question regarding the coastal bank, as I said, when I met Josh on site, initially, I didn't want to call it a coastal bank, and Josh can speak for himself, but at that time, he concurred that, yeah, it's okay not to call it a coastal bank, because it's pretty insignificant. So,
Well, I looked at it and I thought right away, coastal bank, so.
yeah, well, that's why I eventually said, let's show it on the plan as a coastal bank. And it's discretionary on your part to approve that. So when you read the definition of coastal bank, it talks about height. And when you look at pictures of coastal bank, you don't see something that looks like this. You see something with height that provides, protection from storms and waves. What we're stabilizing isn't subject to wave action, isn't subject to tidal action. It's only subject to storm action. So as far as robbing, upgrading, or downgrading, it's not subject to, like I said, storm and wave action, so it's not a continual process where it might be supplying sands and littoral drift and things of that nature. So it's only during significant storm events, which are increasing in intensity. So that's why we are proposing this hard solution. They've tried the soft solution. That's why we're here with the hard solution. So, we don't believe we're calling it a coastal bank. We don't believe it's a significant coastal bank, if it even is a coastal bank. And I think if you look at that report prepared by Environmental Coastal Consulting and Restoration, the coastal geologist kind of even questioned whether it's a coastal bank. He said, needs more evaluation. So it wasn't obvious in his opinion as a coastal geologist that it's a coastal bank.
Okay. So I just have one more thing to ask about. When I was out there on 15 Knobska Way, and it's actually in the photograph number 1, there's a dock stored on the beach in the resource area. There are also boats stored within the 30-foot no-activity zone. Just in 15 Knobska Way.
Yes, that would, the walkway would have to be removed and put up to upland.
Yeah, so.
Is it okay if we speak to that?
In a minute.
Right, so it has nothing to do with this project, but I think it's important to understand all the property owners to understand the responsibilities they have.
Certainly, yep.
Okay. Anything else?
Yes, and the removal of the concrete wall, does that have to be removed, or can you leave it there?
We could certainly leave it.
I'm wondering if it offers any more protection at all.
It does offer protection, yes. But if this project were approved, it could be removed because the protection would be there with the revetment. But yeah, it could be left. It's doing no harm, and it is affording some protection.
So in your expert opinion, would it be less damaging to remove the wall or to leave it in place?
It's 50-50. Like as I said, I don't believe it's doing any harm to leave it. And the benefit of removing it, I don't believe is all that significant. I believe it is affording protection to the beach. So to leave it would not cause any additional harm or significant harm. So I think it can be left as part of the project.
I'm 50-50 too. That's why I'm asking your opinion.
Well, then we agree. That's nice.
Okay.
Anything else? Autumn?
No questions.
Michael?
Paula Jean kind of beat me to it already with the timeframe question, so I have no questions. Thank you.
Kwame?
Any stairs or removable stairs?
3 of the properties were calling for some of the stones to be placed to make natural stairs out of the stone. And on 17, they have a little wooden ramp, which we would replace, and that could be moved seasonally, kind of leave the 6x6 timbers, we're calling at the end, and kind of remove the ramp seasonally as needed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. 13, how many of these boulders will be removed? Their whole front yard is nothing but stone.
Probably all of it will be removed and reset.
to be inconsistent with the other three
Correct.
sites.
Same size boulders, the same slope. There'll be a different height on 13, which will taper down to the adjacent properties, but it would all be reworked.
Okay. Between 13 and 15 is a pathway to the beach. Will there be a stones placed over that pathway?
No, that'll remain as it is. It'll be a construction access. I don't see any need to stabilize it during construction.
But it will be a break in the wall.
No, the wall will be continuous.
So there will be a wall across the path. Will there be any way over that wall to
Yeah,
get
there'll be stairs. The wall, you got to remember, is going to be 2 feet high. It'll be at like a 3-to-1 slope. We're calling for stairs to be constructed.
Am I not, I saw stairs on 13. I don't remember seeing stairs on 15.
Maybe we didn't put one exactly at that path.
Because you have the path being blocked by the new wall. But I don't see access over that wall. Or am I looking at I'm not looking at 15, I'm looking at map 51, lot 1007, A1 that doesn't have a house on it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I guess we don't call out stairs for that. We call out stairs for 17 and 19.
Yep, and 13.
And 13. Yeah, that path, would you want to add? Yeah.
Because you'd have to fill behind it in order to make it the same level as the wall.
Yeah, it'll be filled behind. We could call for stairs to be made out of the stones, kind of when they
Like you are
place
doing
the
for
stones,
13.
align them.
You said 13 will have flat stones for a
Right.
robot.
17, 19, yes.
Yeah. Okay, just bear with me. Well, so that walkway that's sitting on the beach, that pallet that's sitting up on the beach, they have to be moved up to upland. Okay. And, well, sorry. Next one. So 17 has a wood ramp that comes down and is sitting on a couple, what, 1.5 by 1.5 blocks? And that will be remaining?
Yeah, it would be built back a little more substantially. We do show a detail for that.
But I'm surprised it wasn't moved up to upland during the winter. Must be too hard to move. So at 17, you're going to be putting flattered surfaces to create a rustic step to the beach, so this wooden walkway will be gone
That would
on
only be.
17.
Yeah, at 17, it would only be at 19 where we'd replace
Yep. Okay.
the wooden ramp.
Right, sorry, go to turn the page. On 19, there was a mention about removing trees. Because along the beach, you have quite a few trees in which there's nothing but roots being seen. And it says here, removal of 6 existing oak trees that with exposed roots after the erosion control is established.
Yeah, there's a number of trees, obviously.
Those are the only trees I saw that was mentioned to be removed in all 4 sites.
Yeah, the ones with the roots exposed that are probably already dead. The larger ones further back, we're looking to preserve those.
Those are the ones you're trying hard to save.
Yes.
And so 19 will be only one in which the ramp that exists now will continue.
Correct.
And it does have a plan of that construction for that ramp. I think I've got my questions answered. Anything else from the board before, anybody in the audience? Josh, your comments before I ask the audience?
Michael. I already answered mine.
I thought I did.
No, that's fine, yeah.
Did I ask you, Kwame? I did,
Yes, I
didn't I?
did.
You said,
Yep.
okay. Josh, comments?
You can go to the public before.
Okay, anybody in the audience would like to comment on these projects? Okay,
Darn,
anybody
nothing.
online? Buddy?
That didn't save me much time, huh?
I'll chime in
Okay, come on up, and you want to talk to us about, you had a comment on one of us.
Yes, for 13 and 15 Nobska.
Yes.
My name is Brandon. I'm one of the owners for
Brandon.
13. Fernald.
Thank you.
No problem. A lot of what you're seeing right now on those pictures and the sites is actually material that is washed up on the beach from some of the previous storms. So that's why, like, the dock, the pallet, all that kind of stuff is kind of just shown up, so to speak. So we've just temporarily tied it off to prevent it from getting up.
Continuing somebody else's property.
Yes, hoping somebody will come along and claim it. That's all. So that's kind of what it's there for. But as the owner of 13, we've actually noticed, and Brian's been able to kind of support this somewhat in saying that, we've lost probably over the last 2 winters about 8 to 10 feet of that dune that extends out to the beach. And going back as far as 25 years, we actually used to have trees out further that we would actually look at every summer, and then the next summer, it would just be washed away. So we've noticed, along with the other 3 properties, a significant erosion of that area, and it's obviously of concern because it is getting up higher and eroding more and more of that bank, coming up, onto the properties. So, I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for hearing everything and taking everything into consideration.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. This notice of intent, do you have a standard conditions, or is there anything that should be highlighted? And I'm going to take 4 of them separately.
Yep.
So we'll do 4 of them separately, and in case there's anything you want to include in the conditions. All right?
Yeah. Brian, for the record, can you just describe how the revetment located on 15 is going to protect 13 and 17?
Well, the reason we're showing that there, you're implying that there's no building on 15, which is correct, it's a vacant lot, but with these 4 properties getting together, we did not want to leave a gap between the new revetments that we're building, because then that gap would just kind of invite wave action and exacerbate erosion on 15. So that's why we've filled in that short little gap. I think it's about 45 feet.
So we could ask you to put in a rustic flat stones to make a walk down? Because it is a path,
Correct. Yeah, we could put something, those rustic stones right at the end of that. And it's about 45 feet, so that's why we made the revetment continuous so that there's not a gap.
Yeah, you certainly don't want a gap.
Correct.
It'll wash everything away. Okay. Does that answer your question, Josh?
Yeah, I think if that's the case, you'll probably want to see an updated plan.
For 15.
Correct.
I just have a comment off the record. It's nice to see neighbors all working together for a project. We don't see that very often.
Well, we live in interesting times, which kind of force you to do that.
Okay. So, since we opened all 4 of them as one hearing, I'm going to make a recommendation. We close them all as one hearing, but I will take them separately for our order of conditions.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstains, we are closed. I am now going to 13 Knapscott Way. Any separate order of conditions for this site, other than the plans of removing a lot of the stones and... Josh?
I would say you would look to approve with your standard order of conditions. I guess, trying to think of the best way to do this. I'd say there's going to be some additional special conditions for all the projects. That would be, and I guess, here, let me do this. I'll just do it individually for all of them.
Okay.
Okay, so 13 Knobsco Way, I would recommend the approval with an order of conditions, the commission's standard order of conditions with a special condition 1 of any refueling of machinery should be done on Knobsco Way, not within the resource area or buffer 2.
On the upland,
Yeah, or out at the road, I think is the safest.
on the road, okay?
That seems to conclude what I would want for 13.
We could also say that work can only be done at low tides.
So I think if you look at the plan, none of their work is actually proposed within.
But so all the machinery work will be done above high tide, even if it is a normal high tide?
They'll have to work around the
Tide.
extremes of the high
Right.
tides.
Okay, so we could say...
So they'll probably have
good.
like a 6-hour window.
Yeah.
Mean
3 hours before or after low tide?
And
Is that what, or
Something
3
like-
hours
sure.
after high tide? Something like that. A 6-hour window around low tide.
Yeah, something, correct, right.
Okay, anything else?
No.
So that's 2 conditions for number 13.
Correct.
I motion to approve with the standard order of conditions and the special conditions of 1, refueling of machinery is to occur on Knobsco Way Road and not in the resource area or in the buffer zone, and 2, to work around the high tide. Not during the high tide.
All right, that's the motion for 13.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 600. 13 is done. The next we have is 15. 15, I believe we wanted to see a new plan with a walkway over the stones. So that's continued?
You could continue it, or you have approved them, and we just don't issue the order of conditions until we receive the new plan.
What would you prefer?
The latter?
The latter?
Latter.
Okay, so number 15 is in front of us. We have our standard order of conditions, plus the one, no fueling, fueling only on the road, and number 2 is work with tide, and number 3 is a new plan with the walk.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained. So that is now, 15 is done.
Correct.
We have, the next one we have is 17 Knobsco Way. We have standard order of conditions with the refueling on road. Number 2 is work within 6 hours of low tide. Was there anything else for this site?
Negative.
I motion to approve with the standard order of conditions and the special conditions that refueling is to occur on the road and that we are working around high tide.
Second.
That's the motion. I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? Deny? All in favor? All opposed? Abstain? 600. Okay, now we are at 19 Knobsco Way. Any other conditions that Josh, for this site? Okay. Go for it, Autumn.
I motion to approve with the standard order of conditions and the 2 special conditions that 1, refueling of machinery is to occur on Knobsco Way Road, not in the resource area, and 2, we are working around the high tide.
Second.
That is a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Done.
Thank you all very much.
For coming, and thank you for protecting our coastal. The next continued hearing is 34 34 Briarwood Drive.
Madam Chair, I have one online who has raised their hand for this project.
Okey dokey. Sorry, okey dokey. Duh. All right. Please let them in.
They're in, they just have to unmute.
Okay. Oh, 34 Briarwood. Why can't I find their paperwork? There, I found their paperwork. All right. All right. Who's online?
Hello, Paul Seberg from Grady Consulting.
Paul, you were here, you presented earlier, and you've given us a new plan.
Yes, I have.
All right.
Is it okay if I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Okay, can everybody see that okay?
Thank you.
All right, since we met last, we've submitted revised plans as requested. Originally, the design consisted of a proposed pathway through the salt marsh to access the walkway. We've since eliminated that pathway and extended the proposed walkway 73.8 feet from the edge of the marsh landward, and also added a proposed ramp to access the walkway. The overall length, the total length of the proposed walkway pier structure is 125.8 feet, with a 28-foot-long ramp for access, as opposed to the walkway, which would be walking across the salt marsh. The ramp would consist of a graded steel structure or wood planking with adequate spacing to allow for light penetration. And with that said, I'd be happy to turn it back over to questions from the commission.
Thank you for making those changes. Joe, questions?
At the end of this walkway here, that platform, how high is that from the tidal flat? What's the elevation on that?
So that is, so the tidal flats at about, I would say, I think it's around 1 foot elevation. Actually, I'm sorry, is that -1? Yeah, it's around -1 foot elevation, and the top of the walkway is at 8.8, so it's roughly 9.8 feet, call it 10 feet above the tidal flat.
Okay. And his main purpose of having this walkway is for just fishing and purposes, or is there potential for a mooring at the end of this walkway for a boat?
No mooring a boat or float, just strictly fishing and enjoying the river. I believe the applicant may be in the audience there who could elaborate.
Are you the applicant? Madam Chair, is she the applicant?
No.
Give her a minute.
Is he here?
Yes.
Please come
Oh,
forward and
over there.
identify yourself.
Dave Regan, 34 Briarwood.
Dave, can you raise your right hand? I swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth regarding the project at 34 Briarwood Drive. You are the owner of the property. Thank you. Have a seat.
So just to finish out my question, I guess I'd be concerned with hooking a mooring at the end of that. I don't know if we can put in a condition where no boat would be tied to the end of that pier.
There wouldn't be any, I moor my boat over at the Wareham Marina, so there would be no boats or anything else there. It's just strictly for high tides, when the fish come in, or just sitting out there and enjoying the view.
Okay, yeah, because I just would hate to see a boat hooked up on the end and then get beached. I know that wouldn't be good for you
Yeah,
or the shellfish.
It
I
just
mean,
goes down to mud there. I mean,
Yeah.
there's quite a few along there that are out there, but I would not have my boat there.
We could definitely put it in the order of conditions. There will be no
mooring tide.
boat
Yeah.
of any kind.
They don't allow moorings in there anyways.
Yeah, but we can put a condition that nothing could be tied on the pier.
I'd like to see that. But overall, I have no problems. Just glad that you put that ramp in there. No further questions.
Paula Jean?
That covered my concern also, so if we put in the conditions, no, kayaks, boats, whatever, thank you.
Scott?
Yeah, so I don't remember if it's in the bylaws or not, but there's a ratio between the width of a dock and its height above the ground below it. Do you remember what that is? What that ratio is?
I can answer that.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't quite tell who's
Yeah, sorry.
who's
go
looking
ahead.
at me. So the standard is a minimum of 1-to-1 height to width ratio, but the Division of Marine Fisheries, Army Corps, DPE Waterways, they like to see 1.5-to-1 height to width ratio, which we're providing here.
Okay. And I'm sorry, are the materials specified in the plans as well?
It said pressure-treated lumber?
No, we actually have a note saying that no pressure-treated lumber, all pressure-treated lumber shall be non-leaching in accordance with the Town of Wareham's Conservation Commission regulations. So you don't allow for that within your requirements, so they'd have to be some sort of naturally treated or like cedar or green hearts.
Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
Yep.
Autumn?
No questions, thank you.
Michael?
No questions, thank you.
Kwame?
No questions for me, thank you.
Can we say that the support posts have to be green heart? Can we say that, Josh? I mean, that will change.
You can. Your bylaw already states that if any pressure-treated building material is used, it should be non-leaching. The use of creosote or CCA treated is prohibited. And then you give a list of alternative materials, aluminum, fiberglass, et cetera.
Okay, so it's covered.
Does that cover also decking material, or only the parts that go down into the ground?
So it actually says building material.
Okay.
So there's an argument for the decking as well.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm pleased that we now have a walkway over that vegetated area. Josh, any comments on the project?
No, I think the commission's main concern, and sorry if you guys spoke about it while I stepped out, I think your main concern was the destruction of the salt marsh leading up from the edge of the seawall to the actual structure. So they've come up with a proposal to address that concern, and now you've seen 3 plans for this proposed project.
Yes, thank you. Yes, somebody in the audience would like to speak. Please come up and identify yourself at the table.
Patricia Wirtz, I live at 30 Taft Street in Briarwood Beach. So when I look at this, David,
I need you into the mic so they can hear you.
So when I look at the street layout of this and what the number of your house is, it is at the end of where Roosevelt turns off left. It looks at your house right there. Well, Briarwood Drive still continues further straight. Are you including that as part of what you consider your land, or is that going to be open for everyone in Briarwood Drive to be able to access it?
There is no access. There's no access right now, it's all private property. Private property between my
I
neighbor
think
and me.
this is beyond conservation.
So, well, it doesn't show as private in the town.
The street ends
Things.
right there at the...
Point of order.
But, yep,
Okay.
but not back and forth.
Fine,
But-
okay.
Trish, it's not, that's not a conservation.
It should be acknowledged that there's another citizen in here, so I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for sticking around. 8 o'clock, we appreciate it. Is there anybody in comment on it online?
That one is online.
Okay. It has been our practice to ask questions from the board before we ask questions of the public. Anything else?
Not from me.
Nobody online? Nope. Okay. We're looking at a standard order of conditions. Anything else, Josh, should be added to our concerns? Oh, yes, and no boats or any type of boating, watercraft of any kind should be tied to the pier. Does that answer it? And that would be our condition. Nothing would be tied to the pier.
Sorry, I just want to write this down. DMF also did issue a letter. Your normal practice is to include any conditions laid out by the Division of Marine Fisheries.
Then our conditions being, we should include all conditions mentioned in the October 29th, 24 DMF letter. That
Yeah,
is,
and normally, just to quickly speak to that, it references time of year restrictions specifically. But you guys normally just
David, did you
reference
need
it
a
by-
copy of it?
By letter?
Of the DMF? No, I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
I just find myself 2 copies, so I was going to share.
Well, your 2 copies might be different. Recall there was 2 letters issued from DMF for this
Well,
project.
October 3rd was one, and October 29th was another.
Correct.
So I'm talking October 29th, which was reissued after we denied the project. Okay. I take a motion, I need a motion to close the hearing.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 600. The hearing is closed. Autumn.
I motion to approve with our standard order of conditions with the additional conditions that no boat is to be tied to the pier and that all conditions mentioned in the October 29, 2024 DMF letter.
Can I
are
change
followed.
boat to watercraft?
Is the commission in agreement with
Mm-hmm.
watercraft?
That's fine.
I motion
That's-
to approve with the standard order of conditions with the special conditions that no watercraft be tied to the pier and that all conditions mentioned in the October 29, 2024 DMF letter are met.
That's the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? It's approved.
Thank you very much.
Please see
Appreciate it.
Josh for your paperwork so you can start.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. We have a review of enforcement for Bay Point Club, 35 Bay Point Drive, filling of wetland amended? Talk to me on that one.
Yeah, it was only amended because I had added it after we had posted for the public hearing. Let me just pull it up so you can. The Bay Point Club is located in Onset. Their primary construction has been within the last couple of years. It is a golf course with associated residents. We had done a site inspection to a property that abuts this. And while on that site visit, the owner of that property had made us aware of what would be considered a violation under the Wetlands Protection Act. So here, I'll just give everyone a reference to what we're looking at. This is Onset Ave to the south. This area of golf course is the Bay Point development. And then these are associated, well, they're cranberry bogs, they're not associated with it. Over the time of construction of the golf course, and I'll go back a few years on the timescale here, you can see that there was a lot of grading, construction of the courses and the fairways, and what we realized had happened was during the time of construction of those, there was significant erosion from this property, specifically in the spring of 2024. That erosion eroded into a cranberry bog. So as of today, we reached out to the owner of the Bay Point development. We started by asking him to conduct a site visit with us to address our concerns that we have. I'd say this is normal process, send a letter, set up a site visit, see if the potential violator is willing to work with the department, and if not, we move to enforcement. We reached out to the potential violator. He initially asked what the concerns of the department were. We had responded by email, and then we heard nothing. So that's why I have it under an enforcement. I would like you tonight to ratify the enforcement order that's already been mailed, and we have set up a date and time for the applicant to come back with a notice of intent to address these concerns. This will also, so what we're looking for right now is for how they're going to remediate the damage that was done to the cranberry bog. It is important to note that they are going to have to work with the actual property owner to get permission to do work on that property.
Who owns the bog?
I have the name of the person.
You have it, you have it.
Yeah, we are working with the owner of the bog. So we're working with the owner of the property, and the bog is also leased by someone else, so we're working with those two parties to address the enforcement.
Okay. So, any questions? If not, I'll ask for a motion to ratify the enforcement order for 35 Bay Point Drive.
Okay, I move that we ratify the enforcement order for 41 Bay Point Drive.
35.
35.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, 600. Ratified.
Okay, sounds good. I'll have you sign that this evening.
So would that be an agenda item for the next meeting to have a report on that status?
No, until they get their notice of intent in.
Okay.
So actually, if you have do I have the box?
There's a box.
So within the enforcement order, you as the commission have set some timelines for them to respond by. We are requesting that they complete a notice of intent by February 28th, and that they attend your hearing on March 5th. So we've set a pretty strict time frame for our expectations of when we want to see them.
So 3/5, there should be here.
Yeah, yep.
Okay?
And I will say we sent the enforcement order certified mail, and we did get the return receipt, so someone is in possession of it currently.
Good question. When are they coming? Okay. Continued enforcements? Josh, any updates?
Yeah, so we actually, we reached out to both of our continued enforcements on your agenda here. We haven't heard back from 50 Shangri-La, and we have heard back from 37 Pine Lake. They are still working with their consultant on getting a notice of intent in front of you guys. I'll remind you, as it's spelled out on the agenda, but they had built additions on the front of their structure, which is within your jurisdiction. There was work done to a deck and the removal of trees. We have that it was all done within the 100-foot buffer, but there was removal of trees within your 30-foot no-activity zone.
Yes.
So, what I might suggest for the commission tonight is to actually give a vote for a deadline for when you would like to see them. I think we've been very lenient with both of
For
these.
both of them?
And I think now would be appropriate to give them a deadline.
Well, if 2/19 is too soon, because they'd have to do notices, so let's make the target March 5.
That's 30 days, so that's,
Yes.
that seems fair.
Yeah.
When is the last time we heard from 50 Shangri-La Boulevard?
No, we have heard from them.
Okay.
When we initially found out about the violation that was occurring, we had them put up erosion controls at the property, and there's a current cease and desist.
Okay.
So, I don't believe there's been any work done there. I don't know if they've actually applied for a building permit yet. If they had, we would have had to sign off on it anyway. So I think what exists there now is a foundation.
When was that enforcement noticed?
For 50 Shangri-La?
Yeah, it's a curiosity.
I can give you that date.
Thank you.
Actually, I cannot give you that date because I am failing to connect to the server right now.
No, that's okay, that's not a.
I can go back.
Yeah.
I'll-
It's
I'll
been a
email
while.
Too,
It's-
thank you.
It's
Been a while.
It was warm weather when I was out there. How does that sound?
It does sound familiar.
Yeah, I think it might have been in the spring.
Thank you, Josh.
Well, I take this back. I can find it on a May 15th agenda. So you're right, warm weather. So it goes back even further.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, I think it was early spring, maybe.
We're a very kind commission.
I've seen kinder, but yes.
Okay, so it's not on April 1, so it's between April 1st and May 15th. Long time. Next on the agenda, report of land use coordinator.
Just trying to think. It's been a busy couple weeks. I don't think I have anything to report to the commission. I think I'm all set.
All right. You sent out, I'll get to in a minute. We had set of minutes for December 8th, 2024. Anybody comment on that, please?
18th.
Did I say 8th? December 18th, I'm sorry. I know what I should have said. Review the minutes, 6 pages of them. Take a motion to approve or accept the minutes of December 18th. Autumn was missing and Jessica was missing. Autumn, have you reviewed them at all?
Yes.
Okay, so you can vote. So, need a motion.
I motion to accept the minutes from December 18th, 2024.
I have that motion.
A second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
I opposed, abstained. The minutes are accepted, approved. I don't know which word to use.
Accepted, I believe, is the term that is accepted.
Yeah, that's the approved term.
Well-
Now,
It's acceptable.
it's not on the agenda, but you sent out a document regarding fees. I'd like to have it added to the agenda for future, so we can discuss the fees of our neighbors.
Okay.
And I think I might like to have, if you could do, did you do one, was Marion included? Or Bourne, our neighboring coastal?
Yeah, I would say a lot of the communities that I referenced.
Carver and
were-
Rochester inland.
Yeah, Carver and Rochester are inland. The communities that I referenced, Sandy, you had made a point of this, they are all Cape communities. The reason that I kind of chose them as somewhere you should be looking, there's a few reasons. We don't share the same volume that Carver and Rochester have. We don't share the same resource areas that they have. And from my estimation, I don't believe that any of their fees have been updated
Okay.
recently.
Then you chose,
I chose communities that have very similar resource areas to us and who had updated their fees within, somewhat reasonable amount of time. I'll say that the state has increased their fees quite substantially if you were to compare them to some other communities as well. And just for the commission's benefit, the way that the state fees are handled, they did upgrade them. We as a community get half of the state fee. We get a little bit more, but the equation in it is kind of funny. So,
Is this a meeting where we can discuss fines as well?
we will put it on the agenda.
yeah, so what I would suggest is we have a discussion about the fees and/or fines if you want to do that.
I'll just point out that $200 equals 2 bundles of white cedar shingles. So for someone building a house, that is nothing. It is not, I mean, if the fines are supposed to deter people from doing these things, they're not working.
So I would say that your fines are set by the state law, and I'm not going to be able to reference the state law, but I believe the state law does put a cap at $300. But the state law is kind of used as a catch-all for all departments. One,
Okay.
it's
It could be
essentially per violation per day.
It could be,
So-
but we've never,
So we have discretion.
yes.
Yeah, it's within your discretion, and I would say if we were ever fought on a per-day fee or fine, the threshold of what you guys are fining should be pretty egregious. For some minor violation, if you were to do that, it would be thrown out pretty quickly.
There was one, we did daily. It was at least 15 years ago, so it isn't something we do frequently.
Have you corrected it in the meantime?
Yes,
And
but we never collected the money.
Right, and these fines have to be issued daily, so that involves staff actually taking care of that action. You can't build up 3 days and send them 3 fines. So it's definitely used for egregious violations that require immediate remediation. But what I would suggest is if you want us to talk about it, we could put it on the agenda. And then when you actually want to enact it, we are going to hopefully be working to enact the rules and regs pretty soon. So it's something you could do in that public hearing. But any change to your fees or fines requires the posting of a public hearing. So,
Our next meeting, should it go on the agenda for the next meeting?
yeah, you can definitely discuss it. I just wouldn't expect to make any actions. Unless you want to make actions, it just requires that I post it in the newspaper before that meeting.
I
So-
think a discussion first
I
among
think,
ourselves
this-
before we make a recommendation.
Amongst us.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the discussion is the right way to go.
Yeah.
I will have that added to the agenda.
I have one more item for consideration. So at these meetings, which we know run very long, we spend almost all of our time with individual applications, and that's really important. But we seldom get a chance to step back and look at the bigger issues. So things like whether we should recommend any bylaw changes, or consideration of these new rules and regulations, or what the overall duties and philosophies of the commission should be. So I would propose that we have an additional meeting on the 5th Wednesday of the month. So that would be maybe 2 or 3 times a year when there is a third Wednesday in the month. I'm not sure exactly how that works out.
Yeah.
But that would give us at least a little bit of time, as I say, to consider the bigger issues that we don't really have time to deal with on the first and third Wednesday.
Yeah, and I think you joined shortly after we were undergoing those discussions,
Okay.
and we
Yeah,
had
there's one in
special
April.
meetings that had been recorded, and we were working with a consultant on bylaw revisions.
Looks like there's 4 months where you hit a
July.
5th Wednesday.
So once a quarter, essentially. Josh also.
I don't think it lines up that way, but
Yeah.
yeah.
April, July, October,
Josh also had a suggestion about who
December.
might want to attend at least one of those meetings, but we can talk about that later as well. It's not like I'm wandering around on that 5th Wednesday wondering what I should do, but
Oh, come
It
on.
feels off, doesn't it?
Well, it feels good to do maybe a quarter, a special meeting every
Well,
quarter.
it was sort of nice having a Wednesday off.
or a Thursday, for that matter.
Well, no, so I'm committed.
Well, my point
In
being, I
garden
think we can
club,
agree with you.
Okay.
We want changes.
Anything else?
Bills?
Bills?
Did you get paid?
I have not
No.
yet been reimbursed.
Come on, I thought that was processed.
It's in process and.
Oh, come on.
Well, am I expecting a check to be in my mailbox when that process is complete?
It will be mailed to you.
Really?
Thank
'Cause,
That is correct.
you know, when I went in there to pay my quarterly taxes the other day, better part of $2,000, and I, like, hey man, That's when I think of it, when it's the reverse cash flow to the town, sort of again,
So
like
the,
double standard.
so the town has agreed that we will be reimbursed
We
based
have
off
found a
of.
funding source.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
I don't think there was ever any question of if you were going.
It's when?
Ah,
I think the better question was when. Yeah.
Thank you.
That said,
I motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:22 PM.
I second that.
thank, motion and a second, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Thank you so very much.